Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Posthumus.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like you all to imagine with me real quick, if we were to replace the PIN on our debit card with just a checkbox that asked if you were authorized to use that card. No other guardrails, no additional safety measures, relying solely on the criminal to admit freely they were committing fraud. Would you feel that your bank account was safe? Would you feel it was secure? This is the same loophole known in Michigan's election law that allows non-citizens to vote. While opponents have claimed that only U.S. citizens are able to vote currently, the reality is it simply is just not the case. The only thing in place currently to stop a non-citizen from voting is a single checkbox asking someone if they are a citizen. People can and have lied during this process, allowing them to vote and having that vote count. Our elections should be more secure than the honor system. We know that a Chinese national voted in our 2024 presidential election, and we know that vote counted, because there is no way to cancel a ballot once it's been tabulated. The only reason we know this happened is because he turned himself in. He came forward, raised his hand, and said, "Hey, I voted in our election." Our current system has no safeguards in place to stop him or any other non-citizen from casting their ballot. Less than a year ago, the Secretary of State, our chief elections official, stated that no foreign nationals were voting in our election. In October, she changed that. Then she just said it was just one. Now, after an internal personal performance review by the Secretary of State, she admits that 16 non-citizens may have voted in our election. Starting with 0, going to 1, then 16. While a self-administered personal performance review is a step in the right direction, unfortunately, it's wholly inadequate. Contrary to other states, federal government databases were not involved, not the Social Security Administration, not the Department of Homeland Security. The truth is, we have no way of knowing how big this problem is, but even if it was just one illegal vote, no citizen should have their vote canceled out by a non-citizen voting in the opposite direction. You know, there are a few fundamental beliefs that I hold. One, the ability to participate in our democratic process by voting is a right. The right to vote is sacred and an honor. The right to vote is also our civic duty and our responsibility. It should be easy to vote, and it should be difficult to cheat. And I believe that only U.S. citizens should vote in our elections, and ID should be required when casting your ballot. This legislation would give the people of Michigan the choice to amend our state constitution to ensure that only U.S. citizens can vote in our elections. Again, let me highlight that. This vote is to determine whether the people of Michigan should have the choice to do this. It would require proof of citizenship when registering to vote, and it would require ID to cast that ballot, whether voting in person or absentee. This amendment would also require the state to provide photo ID and proof of citizenship documentation at no cost to the individual if they cannot afford it. Despite arguments from our opponents, even under the amendment, it is still easier to vote than it is to shop at Costco. You know, we've heard some arguments today that I want to address a little bit. First, let me start with the idea that this is statistically insignificant, so it is unneeded. A couple points on that. Point number one, in the year 2000, our presidential election was determined by 527 votes. I don't know how many ballots were cast that year, maybe 65 million, maybe 70 million. 527 votes determined the President of the United States of America. Sitting in our chamber today, in this body right now, one of our colleagues won his election by 79 votes. Last session period, we had a member of this body that won his election by 17 votes. That's it. So to say it's statistically insignificant, I would argue it is extremely significant to our country. Along that point, the statistical insignificant nature. The reality is this does more than just address that issue. It goes a little bit further. You see, there is a push in our country to legalize the act of voting as non-citizens in local and state elections. In California, we are seeing this. In New York, we are seeing this. And so this constitutional amendment would ensure, in Michigan, that'll never happen. Only U.S. citizens will be able to vote. You know, another thing I want to address as well, my colleagues mentioned the states of Arizona and Kansas and issues facing their constitutional amendment. Trying to paint HJRB as the same thing that happened in those states. The reality is they are different. The fact of the matter is they are different. We had the benefit of being able to learn from the mistakes of the past to address the issues that created those problems, and they have been addressed. Now, as elected officials, we have a responsibility to protect the voice of the people here in Michigan. This resolution is a common sense way to close a massive loophole in our current system, and it's supported by nearly 85% of the population of our country. Please join me in ensuring that only U.S. citizens vote in our elections by voting yes on this resolution. Thank you.